Welcome to Creating Abundance with Alana Cahoon, sharing inspirational stories from experts around the world. Tap into your inner wisdom at alanacahoon.com. I am delighted to welcome my dear friend and colleague, Karen Hall, an inspirational, motivational speaker on the empathy advantage. She's an author, podcaster, and relationship coach. She's also the managing director of the Los Angeles Tribune Women's Journal and the Los Angeles Tribune Spanish Journal. She trained under the renowned Marian Williamson as a spiritual life coach and has been coaching, teaching, and practicing the skills of managing her emotions for over 40 years. She's the host of the Hero Within podcast, where she features inspiring true stories of unsung heroes. This podcast is ranked among the top 3% globally. Karen's book is launching soon, and she has so many amazing gifts that let's just go right into our interview. Welcome, Karen. How are you?
Oh, thank you. So good to be with you, Alana.
Likewise. So, of all these things, let's see, you're coaching and you're managing magazines for women and for the Spanish community, and you're writing books and you've got a podcast. Which one excites you the most?
Oh, that's such a good question. The thing that excites me the most is anytime that I get to have interactions with people and watch the light bulb go off in their mind. And so sometimes when I'm, you would think that would only be when I'm coaching, but actually even when I'm speaking and I see sometimes I see virtually where people make comments and I'm like, oh, they got it, or if I see their faces when I'm speaking, that is the thing that makes me so excited. I'm just like, yes, we connected. Connection is just really important to me. So anytime that I get to connect with somebody, and being enlightened is also something that thrills me when I'm enlightened. And so if something that I can share with a listener or a reader enlightens them, just thrills me to no end.
Oh, yeah, that's what it's all about, right? Inspiring others and lifting others up. And as you were just saying that, you're on a lot of panels, a lot of summits and panel discussions where you get to see the responses from people. Yeah.
Yeah, it is so rewarding. It's just so rewarding.
So, what was it like training under Marian Williamson?
Oh, it was so thrilling. I had read her book, A Return to Love, back in the late 90s. And I just devoured this book. I was trying to figure out, I'm a highly sensitive person in HSP. I'm also an empath. And so I was trying to figure out how to deal with difficult emotions. If I was dealing with somebody else and we had a conflict, sometimes it would just really bother me. And anytime there's a disconnection, it really affects me. And so I was trying to figure out some unloving interactions that I was having. And I had gotten to the point where I had a lot of judgment and I was just really struggling. And so when I read her book, she talked about the Course of Miracles. And so I started reading the Course of Miracles, and but it was a little heavy. So I kind of had a hard time getting into it. So I went back to her book, Return to Love, where she talks about the Course of Miracles. And one of the things that the Course of Miracles says is you can either have love or you can have a grievance. And I was like, wow, which one do I want? Do I want love or do I want the grievance? Well, I want love. And so how am I going to get back to love? And one of the keys that she teaches is to remove judgment. And so as I read her book and I applied the things, I started reading everything that she had written. I just wanted more. I was just obsessed with her. And then an opportunity came up to work with her. And I was like really? Like talk to her? I mean, like not like a recorded thing. And they're like, nope, really, really. And I'm like, oh my word, absolutely. So I was thrilled because we talked about coaching and we talked about how to coach with her way of her style. And so then she would like watch me coach and give feedback, and I could ask questions. Well, what about this situation? And she would say, well, this and the other. And I'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah. Cause, we'd talk about people that couldn't see it, or obstacles, and resistance that people had to applying, the principles. So it was absolutely thrilling. I just felt so honored to get to learn from her. And she's such an inspiration in my life.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I have several other friends, colleagues who have studied with her, and they teach the Course of Miracles, and they're the most kind-hearted individuals. It's all about coming from your heart center. It's all love-based, and which is what empathy is, right? I'm an empath as well, and we literally feel the feelings of others. And when they're suffering, we don't want them to suffer, right? But we can't fix others. We were just having that conversation, right? We can offer the wiser choices, but in the end, they need to come from they need to make their own choices. Yeah, so love is the answer, as the Beatles sing over and over again.
Favorite quotes. My girlfriend told me this quote. I just thought it was so perfect. She said, love is the answer. Now, what was the question? I've said that so many times, because it doesn't matter what the question is. Love is always the answer. So
It really is. Yeah.
and it's interesting.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying it's interesting how that can be applied in different ways, though. Sometimes love is setting a boundary. Sometimes love is, being accepting. Sometimes love is saying no. There's different ways to apply love in situations, and so it may not always be like some people think love is just always saying yes and just going along and doing whatever and never having those difficult conversations. But that isn't always love. So I
No,
think
it's
that's
not.
interesting.
I know. Because most empaths are nurturers too. And we
Yes.
love, right? We love to take care of people. But then there's a fine line right between taking care of someone and that word I don't like, codependence. Excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know about you, but as an empath, harmony is so important to me. I really value, I value being able to see eye to eye. Even if we disagree, we can still have harmony, and I can accept that you feel that way and I feel this way, and we can still love each other, and still show love to each other, even if we have different, opinions about something. It doesn't have to get,
Absolutely.
ugly or something. And so,
Could you imagine if we were all wearing red and that was it? I mean, how boring.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important today, is to remember that we've been given this incredible gift of choice making, and we learn from, I think, our own true nature. I think I was having this conversation with my husband the other day. I think we're all born with our own personalities, and certainly in the environment we're raised in impacts us as we grow up. But in the end, do you ever look at a family of 5 and say, "Oh my gosh, that is not your sibling?" Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting when I had my children, because like my first child, they would, I had people tell me I was doing it wrong all the time. And then I had my second child, and I did the same things. And my second child was so different than my first child. Then I had my third and my fourth, and each child did come with their own personality. And it was so interesting that even though I parented the same way, that child still had a very unique response to me
I love
and
it.
and to life, And so I thought, wow, for somebody to think that it's all related, to their environment, I don't really think it is, because you can see identical twins, even, how different they are. And so, yeah, I do think there's a lot to personality that comes with people. And that's an interesting thing about relationships, because so many times when we're interacting with somebody, we don't know all of the things beyond their past. And I remember reading this quote that said, "To know me is to love me." Well, when I really get to know somebody, if I get, sometimes I don't, but sometimes I do. I remember, having roommates at college and living with them for, 6 months or a year or whatever, and thinking they are so unusual. And then their family would come to pick them up on the last day of school. And I'd be like, oh, now I see. But sometimes people just have so much behind the scenes that we don't know about. If we knew, we would have so much more understanding, and we would see things so differently. And so I find that to be a fascinating aspect. And I often ask for that in my prayers, please help me see this person the way that you do, because I believe each person is a holy being. And so if I can see them as a holy being, changes everything in my interactions with them.
Yeah. We all want the same thing. We all want to love and be loved.
Yes.
I don't, and it doesn't matter what the person looks like on the outside or the crimes they may have committed, whether terrible or not so terrible. In the end, we just want to be loved and to love. That's what I believe.
I believe that too.
And it's beautiful, the seeing everyone as a holy being. We're all divine. Why else are we here?
Right. Right. And it's so easy to forget that, and when my emotions get escalated, I forget that. And that's one of the things that has been so interesting to me, is learning how to regulate my nervous system so that then I can access that empathy. Because many times when I'm in a situation where there's some kind of a conflict or a difference that's difficult, and my emotions get escalated or their emotions get escalated, and then as an empath, I take that on sometimes. It's very interesting to me how the brain works and how I can't even access my prefrontal cortex. And so that's why mindfulness is so important to me, because when I do that practice every day, I can tap into that quicker than if I've had times where I just am like, I'm too busy, and I don't do it. And then I recognize, I don't have that same ability to respond and be proactive versus reactive. And so that I have found that mindfulness practice to be so powerful in my life to help me in regulating my nervous system.
I love it. Yeah. It's so there are a number of things I'm hearing, and one is this release of judgment. I was in a conference I mentioned to you in New Mexico recently, and it was a blend of avid meditators, Buddhism, mind, philosophers, scientists, and we're talking about how we have thousands and thousands and I don't know how many tens of thousands of thoughts every day, and the majority of the thoughts are negative.
Right.
And mindfulness is all about bringing awareness to your thoughts without judgment. Without,
Right.
you don't need to continue the judgment process. And maybe just knowing that most of the world is stuck in a revolving story of judging and negativity, and to simply bring that awareness to say, well, that's not going to serve me. It's not going to serve anyone. How can I shift these thoughts to a positive thought? More a happy thought, and maybe you're thinking about something someone did to you, right? Ruminating in the past, or what you're worried they might do in the future. But here you are now, right? Where are you? It's beautiful out. I see the green grass and the trees, and it's nice, and I've got food, and,
Right.
Which brings me to gratitude. That's one of my favorite go-to meditations or mindfulness techniques. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that I found so interesting about gratitude was how powerful it was to correct my thinking. Because when I am grateful, the negative thoughts don't have room to get in. And it's like a stage. You can't have both of them on the stage at the same time. One of them has to take the back seat. And so as I practiced gratitude, it changed me. And then when I read about the science of gratitude, oh my word, I was so blown away about how it activates the centers in the brain where the serotonin is. And so we get the neural pathways are activated to where we are more social, we are more connected. And then the oxytocin is released. I'm just like, from gratitude? Who knew that I could rewire my brain from negativity to overcome anxiety and depression through gratitude? But that practice, that continual practice, makes those neural pathways stronger in the brain. And I was just like, oh my word. I knew gratitude like in a gut level. I knew it was beneficial for me. But then when I learned the science, and I love neuroscience, so I was just like, wow. I just wanted to tell everybody about why gratitude was so powerful. But I felt it even before I knew all the science of it. I just felt better, and the other thing that I thought was really interesting is if I'm in a difficult situation and I think of one thing about you that I'm grateful for, like say it's you and me, and maybe the judgments, are just coming. And then I stop myself and I say, okay, what's one thing that you can think of that you're grateful for? And usually there's one thing. I can usually find one thing. And I just focus on that one thing. I'm so grateful for that thing. And pretty soon the judgments just drop. And that is the first thing usually that helps me to remember that you're a holy being is to find one thing to be grateful for about you.
Wow. Can I just say that everything you just said, that's it. Everyone out there listening or watching, it's all about gratitude. Gratitude can rewire your brain. It's got all kinds of goodies, right? It taps into what is it, oxytocin?
Yeah.
And I don't know, all the good stuff in your brain. It makes you feel better. But I love this last technique. So if you're in a situation and you're live and you're with someone, whether it's a family member, a working situation, or someone at the store, at the gas station, whatever, and they're annoying you, or they've done something, or just look at them and come up with something good about them, something you're grateful for. And it could be, wow, I like the jacket. That's a great choice. It doesn't have to be deep and profound. It's just finding something, and that starts to melt the anger, judgment, and negativity.
Right. Yep, it does. It really does. And it's really interesting because for me, it doesn't happen on the first time that I think that gratitude thought. It just like maybe makes a chip. So I have to keep thinking it. I have to consciously keep thinking it with intention. And as I do that with feeling, when I start, because first I don't feel as much feeling with it, but as I keep repeating it, the feeling comes into my heart. And then I see them differently. And and that's another thing that Marian Williamson would say that I just love that. She said, when you're in one of these difficult situations and you're thinking, do I want love or do I want the grievance? The question that you have to ask yourself besides that is, am I willing to see this situation differently? And that's a question that I ask myself when I'm